Welcome. We're reading the entire Bible from Genesis through Revelation, including the Apocrypha and parts of the Pseudepigrapha. And then we have commentary about it, about ancient aliens, occult mysteries, magical arts and sciences, Christian witchcraft, deconstruction, all of the things. We love that. Let me open the chat and see what everyone is saying. Welcome. Today, we have arrived at the point in the story where the story takes a dramatic turn. Let's go. Exodus chapter 12. Okay, so we ended on 11 yesterday, 12, 13, and 14. We are reading from the World English Bible so that we have no worries about copyright. This Bible is in the public domain and it is linked for you here on YouTube if you desire to purchase that version of the Bible to add to your Bible collection, which I have many Bibles. I love the Bible. I just know it's not from God. Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, "This month shall be to you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to their father's houses, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too little for a lamb, he and his neighbor next to his house shall take one according to the number of the souls. You shall make your count for the lamb, according to what everyone can eat. Your lamb shall be without defect, a male, a year old. You shall take it from the sheep or from the goats. You shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at evening. They shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel, on the houses in which they shall eat it. They shall eat the meat in that night, roasted with fire, with unleavened bread. They shall eat it with bitter herbs. Don't eat it raw, nor boiled at all with water, but roasted with fire, with its head, its legs, and its inner parts." I'm sorry, that sounds gross. "You shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, but that which remains of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. This is how you shall eat it: with your belt on your waist, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is Yahweh's Passover. For I will go through the land of Egypt in that night and will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and animal. I will execute judgments against all the gods of Egypt. I am Yahweh. The blood shall be to you for a token on the houses where you are. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague will be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be a memorial for you. You shall keep it as a feast to Yahweh. You shall keep it as a feast throughout your generations by an ordinance forever. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away yeast out of your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. In the first day there shall be to you a holy convocation, and in the 7th day a holy convocation. No kind of work shall be done in them, except that which every man must eat. Only that may be done by you. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this same day I have brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations by an ordinance forever. Pardon me. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. There shall be no yeast found in your houses for 7 days. For whoever eats that which is leavened, that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is a foreigner or one who's born in the land. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your habitations you shall eat unleavened bread. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, draw out and take lambs according to your families and kill the Passover. You shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin and strike the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. None of you shall go out of the door of his house until the morning. For Yahweh will pass through to strike the Egyptians, and when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts, Yahweh will pass over the door and will not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to strike you. You shall observe this thing for an ordinance to you and to your sons forever. It shall happen when you have come to the land which Yahweh will give you, as he has promised, that you shall keep this service. It will happen when your children ask you, what do you mean by this service? That you shall say, it is the sacrifice of Yahweh's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he struck the Egyptians and spared our houses. The people bowed their heads and worshiped. The children of Israel went and did so, as Yahweh had commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. At midnight, Yahweh struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of livestock. Livestock again. There's no livestock. Yahweh, you already killed them twice. Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. He called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, rise up, get out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go, serve Yahweh as you have said. Take both your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and be gone, and bless me also. The Egyptians were urgent with the people to send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we are all dead men. The people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes and on their shoulders. The children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they asked of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and clothing. Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they let them have what they asked. They plundered the Egyptians. The children of Israel traveled from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot who were men, in addition to children. A mixed multitude went up also with them, with flocks, herds, and even very much livestock. They baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought out of Egypt, for it wasn't leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and couldn't wait, and they had not prepared any food for themselves. Now, the time that the children of Israel lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of 430 years, to the day, all of Yahweh's armies went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night to be much observed to Yahweh for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh to be much observed by all the children of Israel throughout their generations. Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron, "This is the ordinance of the Passover. No foreigner shall eat of it, but every man's servant who is bought for money, when you have circumcised him, then shall he eat of it. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat of it. It must be eaten in one house. You shall not carry any of the meat outside of the house. Do not break any of its bones. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. When a stranger lives as a foreigner with you and would like to keep the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. He shall be as one who is born in the land, but no uncircumcised person shall eat of it. One law shall be to him who is born at home and to the stranger who lives as a foreigner among you." All the children of Israel did so, as Yahweh commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. That same day, Yahweh brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. Exodus chapter 13. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "Sanctify to me all the firstborn. Whatever opens the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and of animal, it is mine." Moses said to the people, "Remember this day in which you came out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for by strength of hand Yahweh brought you out from this place. No leavened bread shall be eaten. Today you go out in the month Abib. It shall be when Yahweh brings you into the land of the Canaanite and the Hittite and the Amorite and the Hivite and the Jebusite, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep this service in this month. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and in the seventh day shall be a feast to Yahweh. Unleavened bread shall be eaten throughout the 7 days, and no leavened bread shall be seen with you. No yeast shall be seen with you, with all your borders. You shall tell your son in that day, saying, it is because of that which Yahweh did for me when I came out of Egypt. It shall be for a sign to you on your hand and for a memorial between your eyes, that Yahweh's law may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand, Yahweh has brought you out of Egypt. You shall therefore keep this ordinance in its season from year to year. It shall be when Yahweh brings you into the land of the Canaanite, as he swore to you fathers, and will give it to you, that you shall set apart to Yahweh all that opens the womb, and every firstborn that comes from an animal which you have. The males shall be Yahweh's. Every firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb. And if you will not redeem it, then you shall break its neck. And you shall redeem all the firstborn of man among your sons. It shall be when your sons ask you in time to come, saying, what is this? That you shall tell him, by strength of hand, Yahweh brought us out from Egypt, from the house of bondage. When Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, Yahweh killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of livestock. Therefore, I sacrifice to Yahweh all that opens the womb, being males, but all the firstborn of my sons I redeem. It shall be for a sign on your hand and for symbols between your eyes, for by strength of hand Yahweh brought us out of Egypt. When Pharaoh had let the people go, God didn't lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest perhaps the people change their minds when they see war and they return to Egypt. But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness by the Red Sea. And the children of Israel went up armed out of the land of Egypt. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had made the children of Israel swear, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones away from here with you. They took their journey from Succoth and encamped in Etham, in the edge of the wilderness. Yahweh went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, that they might go by day and by night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night didn't depart from the people. Exodus chapter 14. Pardon me. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel that they turn back and encamp before Pihahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, before Baal Zephon. You shall encamp opposite it by the sea. Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land. The wilderness has shut them in. I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will follow after them. And I will get honor over Pharaoh and over all his armies, and the Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh. They did so. The king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants was changed toward the people. And they said, what is this we have done, that we have let Israel go from serving us? He prepared his chariot and took his army with him, and he took 600 chosen chariots, and all the chariots of Egypt with captains over all of them. Yahweh hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the children of Israel. For the children of Israel went out with a high hand. The Egyptians pursued them. All the horses that Yahweh killed in the plagues 3 times, and chariots of Pharaoh, his horsemen, and his army overtook them, encamping by the sea, beside Pihahiroth, before Baal Zephon. When Pharaoh came near, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they were very afraid. The children of Israel cried out to Yahweh. They said to Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness? Why have you treated us this way to bring us out of Egypt? Isn't this the word that we spoke to you in Egypt, saying, leave us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. Moses said to the people, don't be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh, which he will work for you today. that you will never again see the Egyptians whom you have seen today. Yahweh will fight for you, and you shall be still. Yahweh said to Moses, why do you cry to me? Speak to the children of Israel that they go forward. Lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. Then the children of Israel shall go into the middle of the sea on dry ground. Behold, I myself will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they will go in after them. I will get myself honor over Pharaoh and over all his armies, over his chariots and over his horsemen. The Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh when I have gotten myself honor over Pharaoh, over his chariots, over his horsemen. The angel of God, who went before the camp of Israel, moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them. It came between the camp of Egypt and the camp of Israel. There was the cloud and the darkness, yet it gave light by night. One didn't come near the other all night. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahweh caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all night and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. The children of Israel went into the middle of the sea on the dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. The Egyptians pursued and went in after them into the middle of the sea. All of Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. In the morning watch, Yahweh looked out on the Egyptian army through the pillar of fire and of cloud and confused the Egyptian army. He took off their chariot wheels and they drove them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, let's flee from the face of Israel, for Yahweh fights for them against the Egyptians. Yahweh said to Moses, stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may come again on the Egyptians, on their chariots, and on their horsemen. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned its strength when the morning appeared, and the Egyptians fled against it. Yahweh overthrew the Egyptians in the middle of the sea. The waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen. Even all Pharaoh's army that went in after them into the sea, there remained not so much as one of them. But the children of Israel walked on dry land in the middle of the sea, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. Thus Yahweh saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Israel saw the great work which Yahweh did to the Egyptians. And the people feared Yahweh, and they believed in Yahweh and in his servant Moses. Footnote to Exodus chapter 14, verse 8, or defiantly. Verse 8, the word used there is for the children of Israel went by hand or defiantly. If you came here for the reading of the Bible, there you have it. Now let's get into the commentary. First, there's so much. There is so much. First, where did the horses come from for the chariots? I've been asking this question for years. Not one Christian has been able to tell me. We read Yahweh killed the livestock. Yahweh and the donkeys and the horses and all of the animals got to die. Then he killed them again. Then he killed the firstborn of all the animals again. But Where did the firstborn of the animals come from? Because you already killed the animals. This whole animals thing in Exodus is very disturbing. It's just so disturbing. And it could be why we plunder animals on this planet. Some people have little regard for our furried, finned, feathered friends. It's concerning. Okay? Unpack this. So, where did the horses come from? No one can answer that question. Where did the Egyptians get the horses from to mount up to their chariots to come? And let's look at the numbers. The Egyptians had 6,000 chariots. If each chariot is drawn by one horse, that is 6,000 horses. Where did the Egyptians get 6,000 horses? If we're to believe this story is literal, this story is not literal. As you can see, this story got holes on holes on holes on holes in it. There's no way that this story is literal. People take this story to be literal. And as we are reading this, we are coming up on the time of year known as spring to people who just say it's a change of the seasons. The sun and the earth are differently positioned. Spring equinox to witches, occultists, magical practice, magical beings, fairies, druids, sorcerers. It's the spring equinox for us. Warlocks, wizards, all the magical people. It is the spring equinox for us, a powerful time of planting your seeds for the year. That's why we're doing a wealth ritual for 2026. And for all of y'all that are in the wealth ritual already, woo, already registered. I'll link it in the pinned comment. So it's a spring to people who are not particularly religious, atheist people whom I love. It's spring equinox for magical people. It's Easter, ancient pagan celebration, revamped, reconstituted into Easter, meaning Resurrection Sunday, where Christ conquered death. So to Christians, it is Easter. To Jewish people, it is Passover, what you heard the instructions for Passover. Currently going on at the same time is Ramadan. Ramadan is happening right now. I don't know how they're doing all this fighting and warring during Ramadan. I really don't. Because Ramadan, you're supposed to be praying for 40 days. And I believe that they're going to, on the 19th of March, what's today's date? The 15th. On the 19th of March, they will know the exact day that Ramadan ends, because I believe it's in Mecca. Where is it that they have the sighting of the first silver moon? And then that will signal the time for Ramadan to end. They have to look for the first sliver of the moon, because Islam is a moon cult, as you can see in their symbology, after the ancient moon god Nana Sen. Sen is his name, and Nana is his other name, an ancient Anunnaki who was the Anunnaki of the moon. That's his people. And then the Samson cult, the solar deity, is Christians. Christians are a solar deity. All of their iconography is connected to the sun. And Jewish people are a stellar cult, and their iconography, six-pointed star, is connected to the stars. It's a stellar cult. So you have a lunar cult, Islamic people. It's all cosmic. It's all cosmic. You have a stellar cult, Jewish people, and you have a solar cult, Christian people. It's beautiful. I freaking love that, because I'm a witch. I love astrology. I love all those things. So I love it. I don't think they see it that way. Just saying. And so around this time, all of the people on planet Earth, if you're in the northern hemisphere, if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's the exact reverse. It will be the fall equinox for you. It'll be the spring equinox for the people in the northern hemisphere. So when you consider what is happening at this is supposed to be a very sacred time. Why are people even in war? Why are people even thinking about war? Passover's coming, Easter's coming, the spring equinox is coming, Ramadan is here. Why aren't y'all sitting down somewhere praying? What y'all doing too much? You're supposed to be sitting down, taking care of your little unleavened bread, getting your lamb and your Passover things ready. You're Christians, you're all supposed to be in Lent for 40 days. You're not supposed to be picking up arms and going here, there. You're supposed to give up something during Lent. This is your customs. But do they follow them? No, because they are over there bombing people and whatnot. And this is a very holy time of the year. I don't understand that. This is a very, very, very holy time of the year. All right. Thank you for the super chat. Superfood parents, thank you for the super chat. Let's leave it. You can't keep a straight face. Superfood parents, I feel like a narrator narrating different voices when I'm going through the text, and it is hilarious to me. I'm like, Yahweh, I'm going to. Yahweh, you are too freaking uptight. You simmer down. Does anyone find Yahweh to be way too intense? He's just too much. Like he's that drama friend that everything is an issue. Everything's an issue with you. You can't take Yahweh to the restaurant. He's going to complain about the food. You can't just go to a regular basketball game. He's going to fight with somebody sitting next to him. You spilled your popcorn on me. I'm going to zap you. Yahweh, simmer down. Okay, superfood parents. Thank you for the super chat. We can't keep a straight face during reading if you got character voices and booing interjecting. Because this stuff is just, at some point, it just becomes so ridiculously hilarious. I'm trying to keep a straight face as I'm reading this stuff. I'm like, am I reading what I'm reading? Okay. And maybe some new horses possibly. Oh, you got me this morning. Wait a minute. And maybe some new horses possibly somehow magically migrated from another town each time the set was banged out. This is hilarious. And you know what's funny? This comment is no more unlikely than the whole thing that we're reading. It's just as likely. The Egyptians did some magic. Okay, let's make up a story. Let's make up the fan fiction right now because I love where this is going, superfood parents. I love where this is going. Okay, let's say that there were a whole bunch of wild horses down in the southern part in the kingdom of Cush. And these wild horses, they're just running through the desert and they're just wild, right? And and the Egyptian priests did their magic and they were able to summon 6,000 horses from the kingdom of Cush to go after the Israelites. Yeah, that's the story. It sounds good to me. If you believe Exodus, you'll believe anything. Okay, dear. As a former soldier, I can tell you prayers are for the civilian people. Soldiers go to war, period. Wow. That's sobering. Isn't it sobering? Because aren't all of these people supposedly fighting holy wars? They're all fighting holy wars, right? Okay, good morning and happy Sunday. I'm going to have to catch the reading on replay. Oh my goodness, the reading is absolutely astounding. Okay, a war during the most holiest time of the year. According to their practices, instead of praying, they are acting out of order, just like folks in the Bible, totally out of order. They're completely out of order. All these nations, because all these nations, the Christian people, and who's fighting? The Christian people, the Israeli people, Jewish people, and the Islamic people. Those three are the religious groups of the planet. Those are the three who are fighting. Do with that information what you will. Everybody else is like, what the hey? That's why I like atheists. Because I find atheists, I'm not an atheist, absolutely not. I find atheists to be very intelligent and skeptical with a healthy skepticism. Now, I don't like the super duper skeptics that don't believe anything because, or what, when I say super duper skeptics, I mean skeptics who have gotten to the point that they're so jaded that they lost their experience of awe and wonder and curiosity and magic. They lost their magic. I wouldn't want to live in that camp. That's a very horrific, emotionally bankrupt place to live. It doesn't fill me with awe and wonder to be that kind of skeptic. Yeah, there are people that are like that. And then there are people that are all the way on the other end of the polarity who are the most holy rolliest Jesus freaks or, religious freaks you've ever seen, religious fanatics. So you have this huge spectrum, and people fall along the polarity at different places. And what I would offer is Buddha was right. It's the middle way. We don't need to be super duper religious. This is what I came to for me. Now you get to come to it for you, what is for you. And then we get back into these numbers in Exodus. That I found that being super duper holy religious and believing everything people told me did not work. And I also found that being completely bankrupt of all awe and magic and mysticism and the mysteries of life, and that was not satisfying to me. I am a healthy skeptic. I am a person who still has my awe and my magic. I didn't want to lose that. My childlike wonder, my imagination, my sense of wonder. That's probably one of the most funnest things to have is your childlike wonder and awe. Let's get back to these numbers in Genesis, in Exodus. I'm still in Genesis. Exodus. It said 600,000 able bodied men plus children. The 600,000 able bodied men, according to biblical scholarship, would mean 3 million people, somewhere between at least 1.5 million people, 2 million people, possibly 3 million people, because the 600,000 able bodied men are men who can go to war, are men. They're able bodied men, maybe as we discussed the other day, between the ages of maybe 18 and 35, 36, 40, something like that. People that you could say would go to the military, and the military would accept them as an able-bodied man, because I think after a certain age you can't go into the military. Is that correct, Dia, and all our military people? Is 40 the cutoff in the United States? What's the cutoff? Because after a while, like, you're not as able-bodied as you would be at 23. So 600,000 men plus their boo. Now, if let's say half of them have wives and half of them don't, that's another 300,000 women, wives or girlfriends, or they're about to fiance or something. That's another 300,000. That is 900,000 people. What if 600,000 of these men have one kid? Okay, let's just say half of them that have the wives have one kid each. For these 300,000 men, we're taking half of the Bible's number. We're going to assume the other 300,000, they're single. These 300,000, do the math, they have boos. That's another 300,000 people. And they also each have one kid. That's another 300,000 people. We're at 1.2 million people, and we didn't even add the parents into the mix. Let's add the parents into the mix, and let's say that these 600,000 men each have one parent. We're not going to say two parents because maybe you lost a parent. We're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. That's another 600,000 people, at least if you have one mom or one dad. That's another 600,000 people. We're at now 1.9 million people, 1.8 million people. Then we're not done. Do you have grandparents? Well, my grandkids have their grandparents alive. Several of their grandparents are still alive. Their great grandparents are still alive. Two of their great grandparents are still alive. So if you just look at my family, we have great grandparents, we have grandparents, we have parents, and we have children. That's 4 generations. But we're not going to say all of that. We're just going to say maybe one grandparent was alive for these 600,000 men. Well, no, we're going to say for 300,000 of them. That's another 300,000 people. We're approaching 2 million people. 2 million people. We're just going to name it 2 million people. Now, some people put the estimate at 1.5 million, some put it at 1 million. I don't know how you can put it as low as 1 million because it says 600,000 men plus children. So I don't know how it can be as low as 1 million. Anyway, let's say it's 1.5 million to 2 million people. You have 2 million people moving through the desert on foot from Egypt all the way to the land of Canaan, a land flowing with milk and honey, and you have zero evidence in the archaeological record. This is one point. One. I'm going to give you several. This is one. You have zero evidence, not a pottery shard in the ground along the trail. Trace the trail from Egypt to Canaan. All the cities that they said, go to the Sea of Reeds, also known as the Red Sea. Nothing. Not one pottery. These people didn't leave behind anything in the desert. That's not possible. No bones, because they were riding around and walking in the wilderness for 40 years. And we know the story that Moses said, all of y'all old heads, y'all can't go into the promised land because you didn't believe. And so the old heads died. And no bones. We didn't bury these people. Where are these people? Then they exhumed Joseph. This story is gruesome. They went and dug up Joseph's bones and put a little afterthought in there. You know that this is anachronistic because when Joseph was buried in a royal tomb because, according to the story, Joseph was second to the Pharaoh, which means Joseph would have been in a royal tomb sealed with all the grave goods in it. He would have been, and you just went into some tomb, a royal tomb, like going over into the Valley of the Kings or something like that, and you just scooped up Joseph's bones, and y'all are walking on your entourage with Joseph's bones. Let's continue. So they're moving through the desert, walking with the bones of Joseph, all their people, all their families, done robbed the Egyptians. The Egyptians, here's our gold, here's our silver, even clothing. Why do you want the clothing of your enslavers? Do you think when people were running from the plantation, they wanted to dress like their slavers? You want Egyptian clothing. Yeah, oh, these are the latest Egyptian fashions. Let's wear them to go on our jaunt through the wilderness. Okay, there's more. There's more. Christians came up. Let me tell you about another crazy idea Christians came up with. Christians came up with the idea, some archaeological hoax, that they found wagon wheels, chariot wheels at the bottom of the Red Sea. Let's go to the videotape. We can pull that up on AI because we have to pull this up. Did anyone hear that they found wagon wheels from chariots at the bottom of the Red Sea? Did anyone hear that? Oh, Dia, the oldest soldier that you trained in 2006 was 43. When it's wartime, they raise the age limit if not enough volunteers join. Gotcha. So about 40s. I was wondering if there was kind of, okay, they raised the age limit, if there's a need to raise the age limit. Okay. Let's go to the wagon wheels, supposedly, that the archaeologists found at the bottom of the Red Sea. I had to go look this up for myself a long time ago because I kept hearing Christians say, yes, they found the wheels of the chariot at the bottom of the Red Sea, archaeologists. But I said, let me go I'm not going to argue with these people. Let me go find out for myself. Maybe it's a possibility. What do you think? What do you think? I'll tell you. Okay. Please tell me about the hoax in archaeology that purports to have found wheels at, at the bottom of the Red Sea, rendering the Exodus story true. Let's just see. Where did this come from? Oh, we found wheels at the bottom of the Red Sea. Ha ha. See, God is still God. God is still on the throne. And people walked out of church believing that shit. Just grinds my gears sometimes when I think about this stuff. I need to do some work on clearing. Because sometimes when I think about some of this stuff, it just grinds my gears. Okay. The claim that chariot wheels were discovered at the bottom of the Red Sea, proving the Exodus, is widely regarded by archaeologists and historians as a modern pseudo archaeological hoax or misrepresentation. The story traces mainly to the work of one amateur explorer, who, by all accounts, has to be a Christian because he's trying to prove the Christian story. The claim is associated primarily with Ron Wyatt, 1933 to 1999, an American nurse anesthetist who in the 1970s and 1990s said he discovered multiple biblical sites. Wyatt claimed that at the Gulf of Aqaba, he discovered coral encrusted chariot wheels, chariot axles and frames, human and horse bones. But how did you get the horse bones when Yahweh killed all the animals 3 times? Remains of the Egyptian army of Moses from the book of Exodus. He argued that these were the remains of Pharaoh's army that drowned during the Exodus crossing. His photos circulated widely online and in documentaries. They made documentaries about this stuff. Show circular coral formations, he said, were for spoke Egyptian chariot wheels. This man is looking at coral formations in the bottom of the sea and calling them wheels. Why archaeologists reject it? Professional archaeologists and Egyptologists reject Wyatt's claims for several major reasons. One, no verifiable artifacts. Can you just give us the evidence? If you saw it, go down there and scoop it up. Let's bring it up. Let's get it analyzed and see. Are these wheels? No wheel was recovered and placed in a museum. No wheels, because the story never happened. No artifact was documented under controlled archaeological conditions. No peer-reviewed publication exists. Did you get some more eyeballs on this thing to say, oh, wow, okay. Did you get some more studied, learned eyeballs on this thing to say, oh, that's definitely one of the wagon wheels? In archaeology, controlled excavation and documentation are essential. Wyatt did neither. Coral naturally forms wheel-like shapes. Marine biologists note that coral frequently grows around objects or even forms circular patterns naturally. Divers examining Wyatt's images say the wheels look like coral growth rings, random coral structures, modern debris. None of the photos circulating online, many of the photos circulating online are very low resolution, making them easy to misinterpret. We don't have a high resolution photo. No Egyptian chariots have been found there. If an entire Egyptian army, 6,000 horsemen, 6,000, let's go back to the number. Let's get the exact number. I want to be precise in what I'm saying to you. What is the exact number the Bible gives us for how many horsemen went out? They took the bones. Good Lord. Joseph is turning over in his grave saying, why are y'all disturbing my bones? Okay. Let's get the exact number. Okay. Yahweh hardened the heart. The Egyptians pursued them. He took, he took not 6,000. He took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt. 600 chosen chariots in all the chariots of Egypt with captains over all of them. That's muddy because you took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt with captains over all of them. Okay, so we have at least 600 chariots, at least 600 horses, and all the chariots. Okay, and you have horsemen. So you have men on horseback. The Egyptians pursued them. All the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, his horsemen, and his army. Army is on foot. Overtook them, encamping by the sea beside Piha Hiroth before Baal Zephon. So you have 600 chariots. So you need at least 600 horses. And all the chariots of Pharaoh. So those 600 were chosen. Then you have all the chariots of Egypt. Then you have the horsemen. How many horsemen? We don't know. And the army. So we should have at least found a few hundred. If an entire Egyptian army had drowned there, archaeologists would expect to find bronze weaponry, arrowheads, armor. We find them other places. Here's arrowheads. Here's what we find many places where there were wars. And you find the evidence of it. Armor, horse tack, chariot components, something. None have been recovered or cataloged because there's none there. The Egyptian chariot wheel design is misrepresented. Egyptian chariots typically had 6 spokes, not 4. Wyatt's famous image supposedly showing a 4-spoke wheel does not match known Egyptian chariot designs from the New Kingdom period, the usual proposed Exodus timeframe. He doesn't even have the chariot wheel right. The Egyptians didn't even make their chariots wheels the way he said. Even creationist organizations reject Wyatt. Even complete creationist organizations that say God created the world with his hand and everybody and with his hand in like 6 days or whatever. Interestingly, many conservative biblical archaeology groups also reject his claims. For example, Answers in Genesis, Institute for Creation Research. Both have published critiques stating Wyatt's discoveries lack credible evidence. This is unusual because those groups normally support archaeological evidence for biblical events. I think they rejected it because he was making them look bad. Additional problems. There are other issues surrounding Wyatt's work. He also claimed to have discovered Ark of the Covenant, Noah's Ark, and the real site of Mount Sinai. None of these claims have been verified. Basically, this man is running around the planet trying to prove everything from the Bible, and no, trying to prove everything from the Bible actually happens. What real archaeology says about the Exodus, that's what I'd like to know. What have we actually found in the ground? Most critical scholars today believe the Exodus story is a national origin myth. It's made up. It's a made up story to give a nation their origin story, from the patriarchs and matriarchs to Joseph in Egypt, to the Egyptian, to the Exodus, to Yahweh being stronger than everyone else, to their eventual settling in the land, supposedly, that is a blood pact, because Yahweh loves blood. That is a blood pact that they're supposed to have that land forever. And they're still They're still on this thousands of years later. We still have it over there. They're still fighting right now. Importantly, no Egyptian records mention the Exodus, and no, zero archaeological evidence for a mass migration in the Sinai has been found. You have 2 million people on foot moving through the desert, and there is zero residue. There's no bones, there's no bowls, there's no cooking utensils, there is no pottery shards, there is nothing. Whereas if you look at places that are inhabited by people, less people than 2 million, little towns and villages, less than 2 million, you find debris from their houses, pottery. You can almost reconstruct their life from what you find in the ground. The little cooking hearth, evidence that there was where the fire was, where they made their food. Why the story keeps circulating? Why does the story keep circulating? The Red Sea chariot wheels claim spreads because it visually confirms the Bible, quote unquote. The images look convincing to non experts. It is repeated in documentaries and YouTube videos without verification. Once an image becomes viral online, it often gets detached from the original lack of evidence. The bottom line is the chariot wheels at the bottom of the Red Sea claim comes from an unverified claim by Ron Wyatt and is rejected by archaeologists, historians, Egyptologists, and even many biblical literalist researchers. Like even the conservative Christians, many of them still rejected him as well. So that whole, and people that I know said, oh, didn't they find wheels at the bottom of the Red Sea? People have heard this. This story has circulated and circulated and circulated. That is why it is important for us to understand that this story is an absolute hoax. It's been proven to be a hoax. This man was a Jesus freak holy roller who had to prove, who had an axe to grind to prove that everything in the Bible is true. And if you're absolutely trying to prove that everything in the Bible is true, how can you be open and fair and balanced in your assessment of the evidence that appears before you? You cannot. You can't be unbiased. I mean, all of us have biases. I understand that. I get that. I'm talking about, I got to prove everything in the Bible is true kind of bias. That's bias at a whole nother level. Fallen soldiers, 6,000. Spouse partners, 6,000. Children, 6,000. Parents, 12,000. Grandparents, 6,000. Total minimum 36,000 people. Half is 18,000. The impact ripples across timelines. That's it. And Denelza, you know what makes it even more insane? We have to add 2 zeros to your numbers because 600,000 is what they say happened when they were leaving. Spouse partners, another 600,000. Children, 600,000. Parents, 120,000. Grandparents, 600. Grandparents, no, not 620,000. It's not 120,000. If all of their grandparents were alive, that would be 1.2 million people just with their grandparents. Well, wait a minute. Everyone has 4 grandparents. So that's 600,000 times what? That would be 2.4 million people if all 600,000 of their grandparents were still alive. Total. Okay. So what we're seeing is that this is an absolute, it's an absolute impossibility. Origin story, the original lie story. That is it exactly. Let's go a little further because I'm not done with this Exodus yet. I'm not done with this Exodus yet. Why? Why would, after all this, all of you are out? Yahweh won. Why is Yahweh saying, I gotta harden his heart again? You going back again for an 11th time because you hardened his heart 10 times. Now you're going back and hardening his heart again. For what? Beating his chest. Because I'm Yahweh and I'm Yahweh and I'm Yahweh. And you got to know I'm Yahweh. You're a narcissist. Yahweh, sit down. You are doing way too much. You're doing way too much. Next, these biblical texts are super, super duper murderous. There's really no other word to say it. These biblical texts have zero regard for human life, which is why their adherence, their regard for human life is in the same place. Because the book they read and believe came from God. Do you see how dangerous this is? Do you see why I'm writing this book? The real God is not in the Bible. Believing that the real God is in the Bible is murderous. It is dangerous, not only to yourself and your own psyche, it is dangerous to the people around you, to planet Earth, to the whole planet. These, pardon me, religious people are dangerous people. Why? Because they think unaliving people is a-okay for religious or political purposes. No problem. And that's what they still adhere to this day. The unaliving of people is a-okay with them if it's for their religious or political agenda. Wait, there's more. Did you notice that the text abruptly switched to God and not Yahweh? Did you notice? Because now that we're becoming so familiar with the Bible text, we can see when an Elohim passage is slipped in with a Yahweh passage. Remember the documentary hypothesis. The documentary hypothesis put forth by biblical scholars seeks to answer the question as to why there are differing voices, different and differing voices in the Torah, first 5 books of the Bible, which Christians call, or we call it part of the Old Testament, which is also known as the Pentateuch. Pentateuch, 5, right? The 5 books, or they're called the books of Moses. They're called by many names. Why is it that these first 5 books, are the law, the Torah to Jewish people? These first 5 books, the books of Moses, are the law, the be all, end all. These first 5 books are the foundation of how they came to be, going all the way back to Adam. They trace their lineage all the way back to Adam. Therefore, these first 5 books come under tremendous scrutiny because of their weight and importance in both the Christian world and the Jewish world. Billions of people are looking at these first 5 books as if they came straight from God. From Mount Sinai, God handed them to humans via Moses. Therefore, Bible scholars go deep into the first 5 books of the Bible. Do you know how important these first 5 books of the Bible are? These books that were written by Moses. So therefore, they've been dissected, they've been read, they've been studied. Archaeology, war, history. Who were the kings? Were these kings and places actually in existence? And a lot of times, the locations that the Bible mentions are accurate. There is actually a place called Canaan. There is actually a land of Canaan. Yes, that doesn't make the whole story accurate, because there is actually a land called Canaan at that time. That doesn't make the whole story accurate, because the Bible is throwing in smatterings of historical detail to boost up the story, to prop up the story. Or just as the scene where the story takes place, just like J.K. Rowling set Harry Potter in London, in the UK. The UK is a real place. Harry Potter's not. And people who use a modicum of critical thinking can figure out the parts of the story that are legendary, never happened, and the parts of the story that are actual historical places. What happens in Christianity is, if they find the land of Canaan, oh, that verifies the Bible. No, it doesn't. That's a big leap. Just because we found Canaan, just because we found Jericho, just because we found any other Babylon, doesn't mean that everything the Bible says about that place is true. This is the leap a lot of Christians make. They found Babylon. That proves the Bible is right. It proves it. No, it proves that the Bible writers used an actual location in which to set their story, which we do to this day. Yes? Let's go further. The Passover. Another blood ritual. These people love to say that they don't do blood rituals. You had a blood ritual from Zipporah, who was priestess, to stop Moses from being unalive by Yahweh. That was a blood ritual. She said the incantation. She whipped out her knife. I don't know where she got a knife from to circumcise a child that fast. Man, this woman was on her feet. Well, she is a priestess. She probably had her little tools with her. She knew the protocols. And she whips out and she does the circumcision real quick, and she throws the foreskin, or she touches the foreskin to his feet or to his genitals, or you're a bridegroom of blood to me. You're a bridegroom of blood. She said the incantation saves Moses' life. No one ever says, oh, thank God for Zipporah, because God was about to unalive Moses. Yahweh was about to unalive Moses. I'm still having to let that soak in, because I don't know how I missed that as many times as I've read all these things. I don't know how I missed that. Yahweh was trying to unalive. Yet, it is in alignment with ancient Near Eastern literature, where there are demons and entities who come and attack travelers at night who are either on the road or in a lodging house. And that's exactly what happened. They were in a lodging house. So it fits the motif of Near Eastern literature. Let's go further. This Passover is another blood ritual. Get a lamb, once again, just, they don't like animals. Get the lamb, get the head, cook the whole thing together, but roast it. Don't boil it. To this day, Jewish people do not boil a kid. To this day. No boiled meat, they don't do that. You get the lamb, you kill the lamb, you eat the whole thing all together, the insides and everything. You don't even carve it out and take it. Okay, pretty gross. And then you get the blood and you put the blood all over the door with hyssop. You got to go get a hyssop branch. But wait a minute. First, where do you get all these hyssop branches? This is 2 million people. Where do you get all these hyssop branches? Well, they haven't gotten into the wilderness yet. They are supposedly, I guess, still in Goshen, let's call it. So you mean to tell me 2 million people got to go out and search for these hyssop branches so you can dip it in the blood and splatter it all over. And then either God or the angel of God is going to come by and unalive everyone. The firstborn, only the firstborn, unalive all the firstborns before. Now, that's the blood magic. Blood magic, it's all throughout the Bible. People don't want to call it blood magic. That's exactly what we're looking about. That's right. They know the blood magic protocols, but they don't want you to know them. That's exactly right. Let's go further. Let's look at the Egyptian side of things. Now, I asked a long time ago, I asked ChatGPT if the Egyptians all of a sudden, if let's just say that this was true on some level, and the Egyptians lost their entire workforce, would there not have been a halt to all the building projects in Egypt? Would there not have been a catastrophic turn of events in Egypt if all these things had happened? All the blood and the frogs and the hail and the decimation of all the crops would not have Egyptian writers, even if they spun the story, because maybe the spin doctors would have came in there and said, well, it was because of this happened. They would have never said it was because another Elohim of another group of people did it. They would have never said that. They would have said something else. They would have recorded some catastrophic across all of Egypt, grandiose series of plagues and infestations of gnats or flies and frogs and blood in the river, and then all the slaves left, and then the Egyptian economy, then they're left with no jewels, no value, um, even their clothes. Maybe the Egyptians are just kind of standing there naked in a devastated land. Where is there anything in the Egyptian record that even closely approximates any of this, that talks about any of this? And we do know that the Egyptians recorded everything. Where is it? Was there some terrible breakdown in in Egyptian history at this period? Let me show you what AI said. Let me go find it. I'm going to go on screen share, and we're just going to go and get to the bottom of this. Once again, around here, we don't believe everything AI says. We just understand for ourselves. Okay, I'm going to do this in a new chat because you can see I have tons of chats here, and there's no way I can go through these chats and find it. And even if I search my chats, I'm not sure that it would pull it up as quickly as I needed to be pulled up. So let's go ahead and do this. Was there any, oh, is there, okay, is there any evidence in any of the Egyptian records of a mass exodus of slaves from Egypt, as the Bible contends, which would have led to a massive breakdown or complete halt of building projects in Egypt? What was the what building projects were being undertaken, and did they continue? Because they lost all their slaves. So how can they build anything? They can't. The Egyptians are just screwed every which way to Sunday. So let's see. The answer is no, the answer is no, the answer is no. It never happened. Now we can search history, we can search textual evidence, we can search archaeology, we can search geography, because we're taking a multidisciplinary approach, and we find nothing. There is no way any of this story ever happened. There was a time that Egypt ruled all of Canaan, and that could be the time that they're hearkening back to. That Canaan was a vassal state or under the Egyptian rule. That it never happened. This whole exodus, it never happened. Okay? All right. Let's go further. What the Bible claims they built. According to Exodus 1:11, Israelite slaves built the store cities, Pithom and Ramses, or Pi-Ramses. These were new kingdom storage and administrative centers, not pyramids. The city Pi-Ramses was a large capital built under Ramses II in the 13th century BCE. But archaeology shows these cities were built by state labor systems and conscript workers, not a vanished slave population. Construction continued normally during this period and after this period. There is no evidence that the labor force suddenly disappeared. Egyptian construction did not collapse. If hundreds of thousands of slaves suddenly vanish, we would expect unfinished monuments. That's what we would expect. We would expect the effects of this. Abandoned construction, administrative crisis checks. There was a big problem. These people revolted, or however the spin doctors would have spun it, they would have recorded something about it. Instead, Egypt in the 13th century BCE was at the height of monumental construction. They're doing the most monumental building projects that they've ever done in Egypt during this period. Major projects included Ramses II's building program under Ramses II, 1279 to 1213. This is around the time supposedly that the Exodus happened. But remember, they're writing this hundreds of years after it supposedly happened. Major projects included Abu Simbel, the Ramesseum, the expansion of Karnak Temple, construction of Pi Ramses. The Egyptians are over there just building, building, building things during the time that the Bible says all the slaves left. All these projects continue normally during the supposed Exodus period. The Egyptians don't know anything about this story. Apparently, Egypt's monumental construction did not slow down. They're just, as a matter of fact, it is one of the known aspects of Ramses that he built so much. Egyptian labor systems, how building actually worked. Egypt did not rely mainly on chattel slave labor. Large projects were built by corvée labor, temporary labor tax from farmers. So in other words, you're a farmer, but once a year you need to go for about a month and you need to work on this thing for Pharaoh. And Pharaoh was the child of the gods. Of course you're gonna go do it. This is for your God. Do you see how the religious and the economic and the political system is all built in? Very convenient for them. Skilled craftsmen. Egypt had plenty of skilled craftsmen, people who could do metalworking, inscriptions, finery of clothing. These people were super advanced. Seasonal workers during the Nile flood. Okay, the Nile River floods every year at about the same time, and it's celebrated because it's going to mean rich, fertile land for us and crops galore. And this is all because of the beauty and the largesse of Isis and the planet Sirius and its effect on the Nile River. Prisoners of war. Well, hey, you guys, we captured y'all from that place over there. Get to work. They didn't have chattel slave labor. They keep saying about slaves and slaves and slaves in Egypt. Egypt wasn't doing that kind of slavery. The people in the Bible were doing that kind of slavery, and they still do it to this day. And if you think slavery is over on the planet to this day, it's not, because people love their slaves. They still have slaves on the planet. There's still slaves on the planet. Okay. And for example, the workers' village at Giza shows that pyramid builders were paid laborers housed in planned settlements, not mass slaves. Paid workers. Now, we do know that they did not build the pyramids because the Egyptians did not build the pyramids. The Egyptians found the pyramids. Yet the Egyptians were extremely advanced. And the reason they were extremely advanced is because their Anunnaki was Enki, and Enki was crafty as hell. Enki was the craftiest of all of them. So because Enki Ea, the Babylonians called him Ea or Ea, E-A. That's what the Babylonians called him. The Sumerians called him Enki. His name in Sumer is Enki. The same person in Babylon, his name is Ea, father of Marduk. Marduk was the big honcho in Babylon. These people had territories. The Anunnaki had territories. For instance, tomb scenes show Asiatics making bricks under Egyptian overseers. They had went and got people from all over the place, right? The scale problem. Here's what we were talking about earlier. The Bible roughly claims 600,000 adult men, which implies 2 to 3 million people total. If that many people left Egypt, we would expect evidence such as administrative panic, abandoned building programs, references in neighboring states. Other places around would have looked and said, oh, wow, look what's going on in Egypt. Some historians would have wrote it down. Someone would have written this stuff down. Archaeological remains in Sinai. None of these have been found. This absence is one of the main reasons modern scholars consider the Exodus story legendary or heavily mythologized that many critical scholars think actually happened. There's some serious, there's some theories. I won't read through all these theories. The bottom is this never happened. This story never happened. This story never happened. Never happened. Tomorrow we continue. I love you. Peace and peace on earth. Peace.